Good morning, ladies, gentlemen, lizard people, and variants thereupon. On today's episode of Past the Brain Cell, Raven Smith over at Vogue is going to give her opinion on why it's time to believe Amber Heard. Now, hold up, you naysayers. It is incumbent upon us to listen to Raven tell us why it's within our best interest to believe Amber Heard in this. We'll be tackling Raven Smith's article from Vogue, and I, for one, absolutely cannot wait to hear the riveting collection of witnesses and testimonies in favor of Amber Heard's allegations that Raven Smith will be citing for us in this article. The medical documentations released to the public documenting the horrific injury as a result of absolute beatdowns at the hands of Johnny, allegedly, that Raven Smith will be citing in her article. Even some juicy voice recordings of him admitting as much to such shenanigans. I cannot wait for Raven to supply them to us, because obviously I haven't heard them. This would be breaking news if Raven is able to break this information for us, completely brand new, isolated from the case, given what we have not seen from Amber Heard's current defense team. Without further ado, let's get on with it. Why it's time to believe Amber Heard. Where to begin with the online cesspit that is Depp vs. Heard? Unless you've been living under a rock for the past few weeks, you'll know that the ex-spouses are back in court. Johnny Depp is seeking damages of $50 million after Amber Heard wrote an op-ed for the Washington Post in 2018, in which she spoke of being a victim of domestic abuse without ever explicitly naming Depp. The minutiae being combed through the trial has come to feel less like a lawsuit and more like a torturous exorcism of the past. A thorough and painful raking over the coals of their 4-year entanglement. There's that word that we love to use that means something which doesn't quite grasp the whole picture of what has transpired and yet somehow paints a nice glossy finish over a very ugly situation.
And then I got into an entanglement with August. That's what I said.
An entanglement?
Don't you know? The details of both Depp and Heard's testimonies are harrowing. All by themselves, gruesome, violent, and containing deeply intimate anecdotes about their relationship. Broadly speaking, witness testimonies can be persuasive, and with two actors in the dock, we can never be sure of the absolute truth. Still, despite the fact that London's High Court previously found allegations that Depp was a wife-beater to be substantially true, the internet appears to have overwhelmingly picked Depp's side. Last week, hashtag Justice for Johnny Depp was trending on Twitter. Yesterday, it was Amber Heard. As expected, we're citing the UK trial in order to prop up Heard in this case, which, alright, fine, let's set aside the fact that she may be facing perjury investigations for lies told during the course of that specific trial in the UK. That doesn't negate the fact that the suit was against the UK tabloid The Sun, not, in fact, Amber Heard. Therefore, it was not, in fact, a war of he said and she said. Additionally, it should be noted that the decision was made by one Justice Andrew Niccol, whose son works for Talk Radio, who employs Dan Wootton, the author of the infamous article under contention in that case. Despite this, he did not recuse himself from the trial, instead continued on to dismiss most of Johnny Depp's evidence, including surveillance footage, emails, audio recordings, pictures, tapes, checks, and even the witness statements of Depp's bodyguard. I think you'll find that you can find anything substantially true with the right amount of motivation to dismiss enough evidence to give you the correct answer. Go on social media, and the anti-Heard sentiment is palpable. The memes have been ferocious, sometimes consisting of a spot the difference comparison with domestic abuse victims. At other times, televised courtroom footage has been appropriated to openly mock her appearance. It is plain misogyny. The company behind the makeup compact Heard used to hide her bruises even made a TikTok disputing her claims. Interestingly enough, the fact that a company would go out of their way to publish something disputing an actress's claims of DV in the media should say something about the legitimacy of that actress's word, you'd think. Or at least just say something in general. So it's odd to include this little tidbit in an article about why we should believe her, but go on. Heard is being systemically jeered at and ridiculed like a medieval criminal in the stocks as she catalogs historic abuse, as she alleges rape. Have we completely lost track of the severity of these allegations? No, we have not lost track of how severe the allegations are. In fact, the severity of the allegations she made while under oath themselves are the very reason why no one believes her.
I remember my nose being swollen, discolored, red,
And I took a picture of my face at some point and made a joke about it to my friend about how bad I looked compared to how the
Objection,
red carpet.
hearsay.
And my head was bashing against the back of the bar and I couldn't breathe. And I remember trying to get up and I was slipping on the glass. My feet were slipping, my arms were slipping on the countertops. And I remember just trying to get up so I could breathe, so I could tell him that he was really hurting me. I didn't think he knew what he was doing. I don't remember what I said. I just remember being really still, not wanting to move. I remember looking around the room. I remember looking at all the broken bottles, broken glass. And I remember just not wanting to move because I didn't know if it was broken. I didn't know if the bottle that he had inside me was broken.
Because if true, the beatings that she alleges to have undergone during her tenure as Mrs. Depp, and I guess prior to being Mrs. Depp, would have left her black and blue and bloody, beyond the capacity of any makeup company, makeup artist, makeup guru to cover up. I'm genuinely certain of this. I do not care how good you are at applying makeup. There is no amount of ice and arnica cream that could ever cover up split lips and broken swelling noses the very next day on talk show broadcasts to the entirety of the world. And I know a thing or two about split lips. Ain't no amount of makeup gonna cover that up. Sorry. No, that's not gonna happen. We all understand that Depp fans will side with Depp, but even the less aggressive Depp-pilled of us want to believe that the Caribbean pirate is blameless. If not squeaky clean, then at least under the duress of drug addiction or acting out of character, that his violence can be somewhat explained away by a lapse of judgment or circumstance or both. We certainly don't want to believe that this entire court case is a precise and conniving operation to discredit her, regardless of what she has to say, regardless of her truth. But this isn't a case of protect our boy. It's not. There are plenty of people who are not Depp fans or Depp super mega fans or even have ever seen a Pirates of the Caribbean movie or a Depp movie for that matter that this case resonates with. In this case, you are being asked to believe in Santa Claus despite the mounting of evidence to the contrary, in spite of the nonsense we're being gaslit into overlooking. It's actually kind of insulting. You're asking people to disbelieve that which their own two eyes can see as they look upon picture after picture of Heard post-alleged abuses being described to them.
What is this document, Ms. Pennington?
It's a photo of Amber's face with two black eyes and swollen bottom lip.
We just need to get through as
Yeah.
the best we can. What is this picture?
This is Amber's face turned a profile, showing more of her bottom bloody lip and her right bruised eye.
As they look at these and they're being described to them as bruises, as swollen, as red, and we're just not seeing it. I don't want to think about what this is saying to victims of abuse who are considering coming forward. And regardless of what Heard did or didn't suffer at the hands of Depp, isn't the relentless memeing of her a form of violence in itself? Is the pummeling by social media not a type of psychological assault? Are we not witnessing a modern-day witch trial? I don't know who needs to hear this today, but words are no violence. Sorry, no dice. No. Memes are not violence. I'm sorry, but they're not. Neither are words. Words are not violence. These words, these memes, whatever you want to call them, they're the voices of people who find themselves very much aggrieved with the evidence mounting against Heard and her telling of events as the trial progresses. They are the disgruntled misgivings of people who've, until now, had the wool pulled over their eyes And having it been removed for the first time since the first accusations, seeing the truth in its entirety at last. Because as we mentioned, not all of this evidence made it into the Sun trial. So even people who were following the Sun trial did not get the full scope, the full breadth of evidence that we are seeing today with this current trial in Virginia. Heard really has no one to blame now for the visceral reaction she's brought down on herself. No one to blame but herself. Some weeks, the internet is buoyant. All of us kept afloat by daft dresses and Kardashian weddings and Marvel actors saying they've never been in the same room. Other weeks, it just feels too heavy. We're watching people actively seek out humor in domestic abuse, as Roe v. Wade is terrorized by pro-lifers and as we see yet more evidence of racially aggravated violence. We'll rally, we always rally, but right here, right now, it feels like shit. The premise here seems to me to be, given the astonishing lack of compelling evidence brought forth by Raven Smith, that we should simply just believe Heard because we've already been being too mean to her in the course of this trial. Believe her out of pity. That is the big trump card here for Raven Smith, because everyone's bullying Heard now that the facts, as they've been laid out, in spite of a shoddy defense, that is the best that Depp's $7 million settlement can afford Heard. We should believe her because of pity, and not because the evidence is on her side, because the facts have been on her side. No, we should believe her because everyone's being mean to her. That is astonishingly ridiculous and asinine. I spent a lot of time wondering if everyone's lost the plot, if the erosion of empathy we see online has rendered us so inherently unkind as a species that there's no return. I don't want to despair for humanity. I want to believe that some of us are offline and mildly compassionate, or compassionate in a way that doesn't get tweeted about, that you're all out there being nice to each other, and I'm reporting on a tiny cluster of internet users with pitchforks. Where was all of this be nice guys, believe out of pity kind of sentiment when Johnny Depp was getting raked over the coals for the allegations that Heard leveled at him? I mean, I didn't see it then, and it got quite bad, if I remember correctly. It was not pleasant. But now that the tables have turned, we're getting Heard being slated as, at best, an imperfect victim, which is going to be a whole video on its own. That is interesting, I do think. Though I felt myself veering towards it, I can no longer both sides this. It's time to draw a line. It's time to believe women, all women. It's time to believe Heard. The British courts believe Depp beat his wife. What's stopping the rest of us? And that's a very dangerous sentiment. The idea that we should believe women, believe all women, believe Heard, for no other reason than because women. That's what that says to me. And that is dangerous, because there's no rhyme or reason why the genitals or your gender identity or whatever your secondary sex characteristics are, or what the fuck ever it is that a biological person, woman, is nowadays. I don't know. It's all who's-y what's-its. But to have that be the benchmark, the end-all be-all, the absolute precipice upon which we lay our foundation for believing someone when horrendous allegations are thrown on the table is laughable. Is ridiculous. And I'm going to do another video about it too, because it is important. I feel like due process in this country has been stomped over ever since the Me Too movement came to prominence, and that is something that we need to talk about. The balancing act, the delicate balancing act that you as a person do whenever it comes to allegations, believing them versus not. And the outside influences that tip the scales in either direction. That is an important thing that I think we need to, as a community, as a people, discuss. But it's time to believe her, just because the British courts believed Depp beat his ex-wife. I wonder if the US court happens to determine the opposite of that fact, that we should in fact believe Depp overheard that Depp did not beat his ex-wife, then what are we going to do? Does that put us at a stalemate? Do we reassess? Do you reassess? What happens? Personally, I feel like people should make up their minds for themselves based off of the evidence laid out by either side. And you shouldn't let some questionably recused judge half a world away make up your mind for you. You should look at the evidence and make your own conclusions. At least that's what the jury is being asked to do. And that is what a lot of people watching this trial have been doing themselves. And I think that's wonderful. I think it's a step in the right direction, but it's just a step.